In the treacherous waters of the Solomon Islands, Lieutenant Hugh Robinson, one of the first PT boat commanders, faced a daunting challenge. His 4 small boats were up against an unknown number of powerful Japanese destroyers, vessels that had dominated these seas. Yet these 77-foot plywood boats were about to launch a campaign of nocturnal harassment that would fundamentally change the Imperial Japanese Navy's supply operations. Since the American landings in August 1942, Japanese destroyers had run vital supplies and reinforcements down the Slot, a narrow passage through the central Solomons. These Tokyo Express runs were a lifeline for Japanese forces on Guadalcanal, operating with near impunity under the cloak of night. The Japanese Navy's night combat superiority had been catastrophically demonstrated at Savo Island, where their cruisers sank 4 Allied heavy cruisers in just 32 minutes. With their long-range torpedoes, night-trained crews, and superior optics, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's strategy was clear: control the night, control the supply lines, and maintain the garrison. While American aircraft from Henderson Field owned the daylight skies, the darkness belonged to Japan. Without these nocturnal supply runs, the 30,000 Japanese troops on Guadalcanal would starve. The PT boat was a testament to American industrial ingenuity. Motor Torpedo Boat Squadron 2 arrived at Tulagi in August 1942 with the first boats. Each Elco 77-foot boat displaced a mere 45 tons, with a shallow draft of 5 feet, allowing them to operate where larger destroyers couldn't follow. Lieutenant Roland Westholm inspected his boat's armament: 2 twin .50 caliber machine gun turrets and 4 21-inch torpedo tubes carrying Mark 8 torpedoes, which unfortunately suffered from a 50% failure rate. Initially, these boats had no radar, relying solely on human eyesight and sound for detection. Their primary weapon, however, was speed. 3 Packard 4 M2 500 12-cylinder engines, each generating 1,350 horsepower, propelled them to speeds of up to 41 knots in calm seas. This speed was crucial in the confined waters around Guadalcanal, as Japanese destroyers could manage 35 knots at best. The PT boat's hull, constructed from 2 layers of mahogany planking, formed a flexible shell capable of absorbing impacts that would crack steel plates. The entire boat could be built in just 2 months at a cost of $263,000, a stark contrast to the 18 months and $8 million required for a destroyer. Motor machinists mate First Class Eldon Cantor, a Detroit mechanic who had worked on the Packard production line, could diagnose engine problems by sound alone, even in complete darkness. He had spent 8 months learning every nuance of the Packard engines, describing them as temperamental. Cantor's modifications to carburetor settings for local humidity and his meticulous pre-combat checklists kept these boats operational under extreme conditions. Meanwhile, Commander Cochin Canada led 3 Fubuki-class destroyers down the Slot at 28 knots. A 20-year veteran of the Imperial Navy, Canada was acutely aware of the dangers lurking in every shadow. Tonight's mission: deliver 800 drums of supplies to Cape Esperance. The inefficient process of pushing drums overboard for soldiers to retrieve was a safer alternative to conventional unloading under threat of air attack. The destroyer's size and inflexibility were its main vulnerabilities. At 388 feet long, it required 800 yards to turn at speed, and its 5-inch guns couldn't depress low enough to engage close-range targets. On October 13, 1942, at 2330 hours, 4 PT boats from Squadron 2 idled in the shadows of Savo Island, their engines muffled. Lieutenant Lester Gamble in PT-48 led the patrol. At 2:34:07, a lookout spotted 3 destroyers. Despite unreliable torpedoes, Gamble chose a concentrated attack, with all boats approaching from the destroyer's starboard quarter, firing torpedoes at 500 yards, then scattering. PT-48 closed rapidly. At 500 yards, Gamble fired 2 torpedoes. Their visible wakes immediately alerted Japanese lookouts. The destroyer's helmsman reacted, and both torpedoes passed astern. Starshells burst overhead, illuminating PT-48 as Gamble aggressively zigzagged. PT-46 followed, firing at 400 yards. 1 torpedo missed, and the second suffered a detonator failure, bouncing off the destroyer's hull. While no destroyers were sunk, the attacks forced them to jettison supplies prematurely, with minimal amounts reaching shore. This was the first indication that PT boats could disrupt supply operations even without sinking ships. This disruption convinced Admiral William Halsey to reinforce PT operations. By November 1942, 12 PT boats operated from Tulagi, employing new tactics. Lieutenant Commander Thomas G. Warfield developed a doctrine where PT boats would operate in sections of 3. One boat would fire torpedoes, while the others created diversions with gunfire, forcing destroyers to take evasive action and disrupting supply drops. Though PT boats couldn't match the firepower of destroyers, their harassment tactics forced changes in Japanese operations. They patrolled the approaches to Cape Esperance, forcing destroyers to maintain high speed, zigzag continuously, and jettison supplies hastily, reducing delivery efficiency to under 20%. During a massive supply run by 11 Japanese destroyers, PT boats fired over 30 torpedoes, again with no confirmed hits, highlighting the weapon's unreliability. However, the psychological impact was significant. Japanese reports noted, enemy motor torpedo boats make operations extremely hazardous. Must maintain constant evasive action. PT-59 did achieve one of the few confirmed kills, sinking Japanese submarine WWII as it attempted to deliver supplies, demonstrating effectiveness against slower targets. Admiral Raizo Tanaka, Japan's most skilled destroyer commander, personally led the next supply run with his flagship, the Akizuki-class destroyer Teruzuki, and 10 other destroyers. On December 11, 1942, PT boats detected the formation of Cape Esperance. Tanaka, anticipating attacks, positioned Teruzuki as rear guard. PT-37, PT-40, and PT-48 coordinated their approach. One or more PT boats fired torpedoes at Teruzuki from 500 yards. At least one Mark 8 torpedo struck Teruzuki's port quarter, damaging her rudder and propeller shaft. The explosion injured Admiral Tanaka and caused oil fires, illuminating the destroyer. As Naganami evacuated the wounded, the Japanese formation fell into confusion, jettisoning supplies prematurely. Early on December 12, Teruzuki's depth charges detonated from the fires, sinking her. She became the largest Japanese warship definitively sunk by PT boats. The sinking of Teruzuki marked the peak of PT boat anti-destroyer operations. Although they didn't sink another destroyer, their cumulative impact was significant. Japanese records indicated motor torpedo boats combined with air attacks and surface forces make night supply operations increasingly untenable. Delivery efficiency reduced below sustainable levels. Admiral Tanaka noted, the enemy's motor torpedo boats, while rarely achieving hits, force constant evasive action that severely degrades our supply delivery capability. By January 1943, the Tokyo Express shifted to less efficient submarine and barge operations. The PT boat campaign, combined with airstrikes and surface actions, had made destroyer operations unsustainable. This demonstrated that integrated naval operations could overcome traditional advantages. The US built 531 PT boats during World War II, with each boat costing a fraction of a destroyer. Despite high loss rates, they provided cost-effective harassment. Training programs produced thousands of skilled personnel in just 8 weeks. By mid-1943, PT boats received SO radar sets, extending detection range to 15 miles, and the improved Mark 13 torpedo significantly increased reliability. These advancements transformed PT boats into more effective combatants, though their primary role remained harassment and interdiction of smaller vessels. The Imperial Navy's countermeasures, like destroyer escorts and float planes, proved ineffective. The shift to submarine supply was insufficient, as submarines could carry only 20 tons of supplies compared to 200 tons for destroyers, far short of the 400 tons needed daily. Armored barges became the new primary targets for PT boats, where they achieved their greatest success against maritime logistics. PT boat service attracted young volunteers seeking action, with an average age of 22. They endured primitive living conditions, tropical diseases, and intense combat stress, yet morale remained high. They were elite, taking extraordinary risks, forging strong unit cohesion. Lieutenant John F. Kennedy's PT-109 incident on August 2, 1943, when it collided with the destroyer Amagiri, highlighted the extreme dangers. Kennedy's leadership in saving his crew became legendary, with 11 of 13 crew members surviving. The PT boat campaign revolutionized understanding of littoral warfare and asymmetric naval operations. While they sank relatively few major warships, one destroyer, one submarine, and numerous barges, their harassment value was immense. Post-war analysis confirmed that PT boats forced the Japanese to adopt increasingly inefficient supply methods, contributing to their defeat at Guadalcanal. Modern fast attack craft evolved from these concepts, emphasizing speed and surprise against larger opponents, now with guided missiles. In the waters around Guadalcanal, these small plywood boats proved that integrated naval operations could overcome traditional superiority. Commander Tamichi Hara, a survivor of multiple PT boat encounters, remarked, "The PT boats taught us that modern war requires adaptation to unconventional threats. They rarely hit us, but they never let us rest." The final accounting, though seemingly limited in tactical success, was strategically significant. One destroyer and one submarine definitively sunk, hundreds of supply runs disrupted, and thousands of tons of supplies lost. This cumulative effect contributed to the Japanese defeat at Guadalcanal. In Iron Bottom Sound, where many ships rest, the Teruzuki lies in 800 feet of water, discovered in 2024. Her wreck stands as a monument to the young men who fought in small wooden boats against steel warships, proving that courage and persistence could influence strategic outcomes. The Mosquito boats demonstrated that future naval warfare would require integrated operations, technological adaptation, and the recognition that even small combatants could contribute to strategic victory when employed as part of comprehensive campaigns.